In this video, I'm going to teach you how to mount your paper that you're going to be drawing on onto your surface. Now, if you have a drafting table, that's ideal. I don't draft enough to justify the big drafting table that I used to have and love. So what I have instead here is just a very large, wide work surface that's nice and clean. And then I have put here a piece of poster board. Now, I recommend for you a piece of illustration board instead. Illustration board usually is a kind of a light shade of green, and it feels almost like the cardboard that's on the back of a legal pad, but it's just a little bit thicker. So again, just kind of keep in mind, I've been doing this long enough that I can sort of compensate for bad tools, but for you all, it's really ideal to get the very best that you can find. And so an illustration board has a little bit of bounce and give to it. It'll protect your work surface without kind of marring the surface if you do real hard line marks, so that you can make sure that it lasts for a really long time. And it's nice to have one of those to use each term. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have a real nice long T-square, and you may have a really long one as well. If you have a short one, it will work just fine. Just know that you're going to have to flip it, if you need to make straight lines. See how I'm flipping mine on the opposite side to make sure that there's no gaps. The other thing that I've done to my T-square is, it's also seen better days. It's probably 25 years old, but I've also wiped the back, both sides of this, with a cotton ball with rubbing alcohol on it, just to get any of like the gum or goop or anything that's been on it from previous sessions. So that's the first thing I've done. The second thing is I have pulled out 4 drafting dots. These are drafting dots, and I've stuck them to the edge of my table. I'm going to have one for each corner. And so the next thing I do to make sure that my drafting surface is ready is I'm going to go ahead and draw a really straight line right at the bottom of my piece of paper. And this is really helpful because this allows me to make sure that I'm placing my drawing in the same location on the sheet if I have to move it, and also ensures that the lines that I'm working from are straight. So I'm going to go ahead and begin by just pulling my T-square nice and close, making sure that my line is straight, and then I'm going to draw a horizontal line at the bottom part of my paper, just right here. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is move my T-square, and I'm going to make sure that the very bottom edge of my paper is aligned in the same spot. And because what you have to remember when you're making a perspective, especially when we're following all the technical rules, is that, of course, every little operator error, every little tiny difference in measurements or placements of things, it will kind of have a cumulative effect in some way later on in the drawing, in which you see that, everything's just a little bit off. And it starts here, so you have to make sure that you get everything on straight. And then what I do is I set my scale ruler at the bottom, and I smooth it out, moving all the way up to the top. And then I'll put my final drafting dots up here at the top. And if you're doing a lot of drawing, like your drafting surface, you're having to remove things really frequently and kind of replace them, it's also nice to come in and also draw a line at the edge right there, so that you can kind of match this up the next time you have to place it in. If you really want to, you can put a little note that says this is where you match up your 1-point perspective drawing. It just depends on how technical you want to be. But once you have this set up and your tools are clean, your drafting surface is mounted, you can go ahead and get started. Now, the one thing I did forget to tell you is that I have a piece right here. This is 18 by 24 vellum. And vellum is sort of a heavier, thicker piece of almost like tracing paper. You can see behind it a little bit. It's got a little bit of translucency, but I always like to work with this because it treats all the drawing media that I like to use, like the markers that we'll use eventually, pens and pencils, really, really nicely. So other papers will start to absorb it just a little bit more, and or not blend as nicely. So start with your 18 by 24 piece of vellum. Make sure that your drafting surface is nice and clean. Go ahead and draw that guideline to make sure that you've got your paper on nice and straight, making sure, of course, that you've cleaned your tools first. And this is everything you need to get started.